Start Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the GODSU Tuesday Talk. This is your Excellency Picard, and I am the co-MC as well as the engineer for this show. And without any further ado, I'm going to pass it off to our MC, Her Excellency Cairo. Cairo writes, Cairo speaks.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and as he already said, welcome to the GODSU Tuesday Icon Talk. It is always my pleasure to be your host and getting to interview different icons within their respective fields. Last week, we were able to hear from the men of God, or GODSU, Unlocking Legacy Successfully, or as we like to call them, moguls. And tonight, we have one woman of power who is so powerful with her vision and also her organization, her goals, and her background that we are exclusively interviewing her tonight. This is none other than Dr. Gina Paige of African Ancestry, Inc. But before we begin, let us pray. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for waking us up this morning. We want to just say to you that we are so excited to have someone who is so passionate about our legacy and also finding out about our history, that she's created this organization. May we learn from her about empowerment, starting from our roots, and may we be able to take this knowledge into our day-to-day activities and our lives. In your name we pray, God. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. So without further ado, it would be my honor to be able to introduce to you tonight Dr. Gina Paige. In 2003, Dr. Gina Paige co-founded African Ancestry, Inc. as a new way of tracing African lineages using genetics and a new marketplace for people of African descent looking to more accurately and reliably trace their roots. Her work is featured in Finding Your Roots with Henry Louis Gates Jr. Under Paige's leadership, African Ancestry has grown into the nation's leading genetics-based ancestry tracing company, sparking global interest, dialogue, and focus on the importance of knowing who we are. Paige has traveled the world testing and revealing African roots of more than 150,000 people while educating and informing identities. This was as of 2013, 150,000 people. So you can already imagine how many people's lives have changed in the last 6 years, almost 7 years. As with most great innovators, Gina's work with African Ancestry has spawned a mix of industry offshoots and major company milestones, including reaching its 10th anniversary in 2013. Many of the world's thought leaders, influencers, celebrities, dignitaries, and businesses and other icons have looked to Paige to learn more about their roots. From Oprah Winfrey, John Legend, and Spike Lee to Condoleezza Rice and the King family, Paige has had a personal hand in demystifying their unknown African roots. Paige has also worked with major companies looking to join the growing trend in genealogy. She's worked with Henry Louis Gates Jr. on 3 groundbreaking PBS programs, including Finding Your Roots with Henry Louis Gates Jr. and African American Lives 1 and 2. She's also worked with NBC's Who Do You Think You Are? And CNN's Black in America series, among others. Additional partners include McDonald's, Capital One, Booz Allen Hamilton, Wells Fargo, United Healthcare, and dozens of community organizations and faith-based entities. Dr. Paige, it's a pleasure to have you with us tonight.
Oh, thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Let me just tell you that when it comes to interviewing you, I have been so excited. I'm always excited to be able to interview our various icons, but tonight means so much to me because it really does resonate with me, the idea of finding out who you are in order to find out where you're going. And so with you, I mean, in order to create this organization, this vision, right, of having African empowerment through genealogy and through tracing your lineage, you had to have had a journey that has gotten you here. What is the journey that has led you to co-found African Ancestry, Inc.?
Well, my journey, I feel pretty ordinary. I mean, in some respects, I got a degree in economics from Kansas University, and I got an MBA in marketing from the University of Michigan. And that whole part of my journey really driven by the idea that I wanted to work for myself. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't have a job when I graduated from college. I just was kind of, I don't know, floating, I guess you would say. But once I got to business school and learned about the function of product management in corporations at major consumer product goods companies, it started to make sense to me that I could learn how to run businesses while working for other companies and making enough money I could save and one day have my own business, still not knowing that what I wanted to do. My career started in packaged goods. I worked for companies like Colgate-Palmolive, pushing Palmolive liquid and Fairly Bakery, making product lines and launching new dessert products, but found that it was not fulfilling in terms of my desire to positively impact the lives of Black people. And so ultimately in 2001, 2002, I met my current business partner, Dr. Rick Kittles, and he had this technology that allowed him to tell us where specifically in Africa we come from using our DNA. He's a geneticist, a renowned geneticist around the world. And so it was really his vision, and what I did was I took his vision and commercialized his research to make this service available to everyone. And that was in line with my having used my skill set that I've developed over my educational career and my professional career to launch a new product that had never existed before. That's rare. There are very few brand new products these days. And then three, to use all of that for the benefit of the group of people that I'm passionate about, which is Black people. So I feel like my journey was pretty standard in terms of going to college, then pursuing further education, and then getting a job at a corporation. But in 1999, 2000 is when I decided to break ties with corporate America and go out on my own. Now, here I am, 17 years later, with this company.
That's amazing. And you know what I will tell you is that many people, they hear my name or they hear my siblings' names and they think about how cool it is, but they want to know, why did our parents name us these names? My name is Cairo, like Egypt. Here's Dakar, just like Senegal. And then we have our sister Sudan, like Sudan, right? And the reason why our parents did this was because they wanted us to feel attached and connected to the African continent. They wanted us to feel as though our heritage was something to be proud of. And I would say that for many people, they don't know their background outside of where they come from within the United States or within the Caribbean. So for you've traced your lineage. When you traced your roots, what were the results that you found? And I also wanted to know, what were some of the emotions that you must have felt after receiving this information? Did you feel connected to those countries in the same way that my parents intended for us to feel connected to African countries?
Mm-hmm. Well, my parents took the test. I didn't have to because it traces a lineage or a branch of the family tree. So when one person on that branch takes the test, the results are the same for everyone else. Others took the test, which meant that I, by default, was able to learn my maternal ancestry, which is I share with the Fulani people living in Nigeria today. And then my father also took a test to trace his father's line, so father to father's father, and we learned that we share ancestry on that line with the Hausa people living in Nigeria today also. So I have two Nigerian lineages to specific groups of people, and to be honest, it didn't really hit me because when they took the test, we had just started the company, and I was in startup mode, just making sure that we had dotted all of our I's and crossed all of our T's, and that our operations were running smoothly, that trying to get grassroots marketing efforts out. I wasn't focused on myself, but one day I had to read to a gentleman who didn't have access to the computer or the internet about the people that he shared ancestry with, and it happened to be the same group that I shared ancestry with. And so at that moment is when it really hit me that, okay, this is my legacy. And for example, the Fulani people, we know that the Fulani live by a code of ethics, if you will, called Pulaku, that are based in personal responsibility, courage, resilience. And I was able to just look at what I've done strictly with African ancestry and the values that I have that are infused into this company, and how I've been able to get it to where we are today and tie those directly back to those values. You think you get them from your mother, but she got them from her mother, and she got them from her mother, and her mother, and her mother. We don't think beyond what we can see or the people that we've met. And so that's just one example of how almost overwhelming, but in a positive way, it is when you can actually see the elements of yourself in those people that you come from, and you have no idea who they are.
That is absolutely powerful. And what I will tell you is that I've been to Egypt and I've been to Senegal, and my grandmother on my mother's side, my maternal grandmother, would always say that she was a Senegalese woman, and my grandfather always felt an attachment to Senegal. May he rest in peace. He actually passed this past March. But I remember I dedicated my first trip to Senegal to him. And I felt so connected in many ways to the Senegalese people because of the fact that my grandparents had such an attachment to Senegal. So what I'm curious to know, my question is for you, is when you, have you been to Nigeria? And if so, what was that experience like especially when you went to see maybe some of the cultures, the diversity and the cultures, and some of the cultures that you also hailed from?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, we'll have to have this conversation after December 22nd, because I'll be traveling to Nigeria for the first time on December 12th. So I have not been there yet. So I haven't had that experience. However, I have traveled to countries like Cameroon with large groups of people whose ancestries we trace to Cameroon. And I can tell you that it is a transformative, life-changing experience, without a doubt. To first of all, be on the continent. That's not something that most of us expect to happen for us in a lifetime, let alone to have your first visit to the continent be the country that your ancestry leads back to. That's another overwhelming moment. And so then just learning all that you can. People are sponges, just soaking up all of the history, all of the traditions that they're exposed to, all of the information that they're learning, the foods, the sights, the sounds, the smells, all of that. You see people completely transform. I'll tell you quickly, when we met at Dallas Airport here in DC, everybody was just an African American who had taken our test. By the time we landed in Cameroon, in Yaoundé, they were Cameroonian Americans. So when they stepped off the plane, they were identifying themselves as Cameroonian Americans. After 3 days in the country, they were Americans. They had and people of Cameroon here here in the States, particularly in DC and in the embassy community, they refer to people who've taken our test as Americans. It's a brand new identity. Now that's very powerful.
Yes, it is. It is, especially when you know through watching different films or even like Roots, for example, when you realize that our people had been punished and brutalized to purposefully erase our heritage, erase our culture, to forget where we come from, to be able to reclaim that is extremely powerful. And so I want to tell you that when you touch down in Nigeria, it will be an amazing experience. I know for myself, going to Senegal and seeing Gory Island, seeing the door of no return, it was a visceral reaction that I experienced because I realized that my people could come from there, you know, and I could have left from that exact place. And yet here we are still standing, and we're keeping and empowering our as well. We're making them proud because of all of the sacrifices that they made, we're still here. And that is the most amazing thing about it all. Can you share some insight on that as well, in terms of some of the people who went to Cameroon, for example, came back, Americans, for example, and felt attached to the culture? What were some of the testimonies that they shared?
Well, you know, you touched on it just a moment ago. Black people are the original victims of identity theft. And for that very reason that you mentioned, we lost our names, our languages, freedom to honor our ancestors, and our families were torn and stolen and sold apart. And so you have no idea who you are if you don't know your name, your language, and all of those things. And you almost don't even understand that void until it gets filled. And so that is why when people travel to the country of their ancestry, it's so transformative, because you now are restoring all that was lost, all the content that was lost over the past 400 years. And what I've seen is people staying in contact with the people that they've met in Cameroon. I see them interacting here in the state, in Cameroonian communities. People have changed their names, had naming ceremonies. People now learn the languages of the ethnic groups that they belong to. I've seen people create plays, write music, write books, start businesses. I mean, the list of how this has impacted people is enormous. And so, you know, it's a closing of the loop. Even though there's still going to be unknowns, we're not going to be able to tell you the person's name. We're not going to be able to tell you how they contributed to society. But for us, as Black people, as the members of the diaspora who were taken, it's very important to even have just a little piece of that information, and to know that that information is rooted in our DNA. DNA has memory, and all we're doing is unlocking that memory.
That is powerful, absolutely powerful. And speaking of the fact that data does have memory, and that you can be able to, what is the word that I'm looking for? You can be able to pass down certain traits, as you were saying, certain values, certain characteristics. It reminds me of the saying that you can take the girl out of the island, but you cannot take the island out of the girl. So there are certain aspects that are innate within us, that are part of our DNA, part of our lineage, that we can't help but express, no matter where we are. And so I wanted to know, what are some of these, if you can speak some more about some of these qualities or these patterns that you've seen that connect us as African Americans or African diasporic peoples back to the motherland. What are some of these observations that you've witnessed? Can you share that with us?
Of course, I think that the things that connect us are seen and unseen. So when you think about the unseen, it's our spirituality. It's our reverence for our elders and our ancestors. It's our resilience. You know, we come from kingdoms. We don't come from slaves. We come from people who were enslaved for a very long period of time on the continuum of history. And so the more that we learn about our history prior to the past 400 years, the more empowered we become. But then there are the seen as well, the way we wear our hair, the foods that we eat, the vibration of the music that we enjoy, what else would I say? The way we wear our clothes, you know, the fact that we're colorful and vibrant and creative, all of those same things can be tied back to our cultures on the continent. And then, there's so many things. I'm all over the place. But my point is that there are things that are seen and unseen. And often, because we don't know our history, because we don't know beyond South Carolina or Alabama or Haiti or Jamaica, we think that it starts there. And when you learn about your history, when you learn about who you come from, you completely change the way you view yourself and what you can be. And that's the real power of the work that we do.
You know, what you just said was phenomenal, because at the end of the day, I feel the exact same way. You know, oftentimes the way that we've been taught and we've been raised in schools, for example, is that our story starts with the narrative of slavery, and that's all that we have to cling on to. That's all that we have to feel connected to. But when you look back, especially if you go to these various countries, like, for example, at the African Renaissance Museum in Dakar, Senegal, there's a timeline, and if you see the fraction that it was relative of slavery, how long it took relative to the existence of civilization or humanity, you'll be amazed. It's such a small portion, as you said, compared to everything else that has happened since the beginning of time, and yet that's what people seem to know or cling on to. And so you've talked about being able to find out where your genealogy is, where it can be traced, finding out where your heritage really lies. But what are some other ways? I know you touched on this before, but if you could go into some more information as to how we can feel more connected as African Americans. What are things that we can do to feel more connected to the motherland or to the African continent?
There are many things we can do to feel more connected to Africa, to the motherland. We can read books. We can read books by, there's so many authors. The one that comes to the top of my head is Anthony Browder, because your name and our discussion of Egypt. And he has a fantastic book called The Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization by Anthony T. Browder. A book can simply open up your imagination and open up your eyes to what was and therefore what can be. We can listen to music. Afrobeat is immensely popular now. All of a sudden, Afrobeat is completely immersed and integrated into popular music that we listen to as Black folks. We can study other forms of music that come from these continents and search for the African influences on the things that we do. There is an African community, at least one, in every major city in this country. You can seek out an event that is being hosted by a group, a native African group in the city that you live in, and just go check it out. You know, go participate, see what they're doing, what they're talking about, how they're celebrating. You can go to an African restaurant. You can watch a documentary. You can simply go buy something beautiful to wear and do some research about Ankara fabric and where it comes from and how it's used in different countries, or indigo fabric or kuva cloth. You can go to a museum. You come to DC and go to the Smithsonian Museum of African Art and learn about the artwork and the cultures behind the artwork. There's so many different kinds of things that we can do. And of course, ultimately, just travel. That's the best way to do it. Save your money and take a trip and go to a country like Ghana, which is welcoming the whole world, the entire diaspora this year during the year of return 2019. So there are lots of things that we can do that are free or that, require an investment.
And I think that these were all great ideas, and you really touched on the one that I thought was the most pivotal and easily immersive, which is to travel. We as African Americans or people of African heritage have to go to the African continent. We have to be able to see these countries up close and personal. We have to know where people come from, and we'll be so amazed. I've seen different videos that have gone viral where an African American dances beside someone who's native West African and is teaching different dance moves. They're engaging in cultural exchange and understanding, and they find out that they have so much in common in terms of the ways in which they move or the ways in which they connect to the music. And so you have just been completely spot on. There are people who are interested in learning more about, say, you were talking about bringing groups to Cameroon. Is that something that you still do? And if so, can you please share more information about that?
So we actually have an initiative that will be launching in December that will involve travel with people who've taken our test to travel with us to their countries of ancestry. So stay tuned, because we'll be announcing the details of that in December. And I'm really looking forward to that. The next step, once you find out what to do, and travel is a logical next step for many people.
Well, we will absolutely be staying tuned. This sounds incredible, and let me tell you that I really look forward to our family also being able to take this test and be able to learn exactly where we came from. As I said before, my grandparents had always felt a connection to Senegal, and who knows, maybe they really did. They were right about that. But what if our people came from other places? And so the possibilities are absolutely endless. I wanted to first thank you so much for just sharing this information. But before we start to close, I do want to ask you, there are so many people who wanted to know, how do we find more information about this African ancestry and the objectives that you have, and even for those who want to be able to take the test for themselves? Can you tell us where we can find that information on your website, and if you have any additional sources of publications that you would like for us to look into that you are affiliated with? Please share that with us at this time.
Of course, I'd love to. Thank you for the opportunity. So you can learn about us at AfricanAncestry.com online. We have a Facebook presence, African Ancestry on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We're on Twitter. And I encourage you to go, even on YouTube, there's a lot of video out there on our YouTube channel about the impact of the work that we do. I encourage everyone to really think about who you are and where you come from. And you can start, you don't have to start with the DNA test. You can start with just asking, doing some family research, talking to elders in the family, maybe doing some research online with genealogical records. But the beauty of African ancestry is that we are the bridge between where your research stops and where your ancestors were 400, 500 years ago. And we are uniquely qualified to do this work because we focus on Black people. We are focused on Africa. Now, everybody is not 100% African. So sometimes you take our test and it doesn't go back to Africa. It's going to go back to Europe or to a Native American lineage, because that's just who we are as people of African descent. We're mixed up. But we are singularly focused on people of the diaspora, and so we have the largest database of African lineages out there. Other companies will compare you to 621 Africans or 1,400 Africans and then give you all these different percentages. Well, we compare you to 30 times as many people. We compare you to over 33,000 Africans, segmented by countries and by ethnic groups or tribes. So our goal is to get specific, to give you specific information that will inform who you are and the legacy that you will leave for your family and for the community.
AfricanAncestry.com, everyone on the line, please be sure to save that. I actually see people on Facebook writing that in, typing that in. Thank you so much for that, because you don't know what you have done, Dr. Paige. You're so humble with what you said, at the beginning where you said, I was just doing what I was supposed to do, etc. But you got called to sharing this information, and knowing, as you said, knowing your cultural background, knowing your heritage is a form of empowerment. And the more connected we feel to our history, past the slave narrative, the more that we can truly become who we were meant to be. So with that being said, thank you so much, Dr. Paige, for indulging us with this interview and allowing us an exclusive 30 minutes to just hear from you why you do what you do. And thank you so much for all of that. We are just so impassioned and we feel so enlightened as a result of this talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for honoring the spark and sharing it with your audience, and my best to your mom and your entire family.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we want to make sure that you are invited to our December graduation and conference, our Empower You conference. As you know, we're going to be with the ambassadors of Ghana and Nigeria, among other representatives and dignitaries of African countries. And what better way to be able to share that information than right in front of those ambassadors? So we'd love to be able to connect with you off the line and make sure that you are there and present at the graduation. How does that sound?
It sounds good as long as I'm here, because remember, I'm going to...
I remember you're going to Nigeria. Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? What I will say...
Look at the calendar and see what the dates are.
Yes, it'll be December 6th through the 9th. So if you're, I know you said December 23rd. I remember you saying...
The 12th. I'm leaving on the 12th. So I'll look at my calendar and see if I can be there.
Okay, well, we would love to have you there, but we also want to let you know, congratulations on being able to make the voyage to Nigeria. We're already going to wish you safe travels as you get immersed in the culture of the Fulani people and the Hausa people, your people. And may you have a prosperous time there. And we just want to let you know that we adore you and we adore all of the things that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're absolutely welcome. Well, everyone, we're going to transition now to the graduation call, this mandatory call for all of the graduates online. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Dr. Diane Moore-Eubanks, our Chancellor. And we want to remind you all that we'll be having some wonderful men of GODSU unlocking legacy successfully, or the easier way to say, moguls, next week. And we look forward to continuing these conversations and sharing information from icons such as Dr. Gina Paige throughout the upcoming weeks leading up to graduation. So with that being said, we're going to turn it over to Dr. Diane. Here you go. Please take the mic.
Incredible. Great.